This video allegedly shows North Korean soldiers in Russian uniforms as they experience their first encounter with Ukrainian drones in the Kursk region. The North Korean element, consisting of at least an entire platoon and possibly more, was attempting to cross a wide, open, snow-covered field to move from one wooded area to another in a tight column, unaware that their movements were already being observed by multiple Ukrainian drones. With their low situational awareness and the extremely unfavorable terrain and weather conditions, they became an easy target for Ukrainian FPV drones, which began striking the exposed and inexperienced North Koreans without warning. Drone after drone descended from above onto the North Korean soldiers, who had no chance to take cover due to the terrain, leaving them unable to escape the Ukrainian kamikaze drones. But FPV drones were not the only thing the Ukrainians had in store for the North Koreans. Due to their inexperience and the way they attempted to cross the area in a tight formation, they practically invited the Ukrainians to use cluster munitions. No wonder, because the open area without cover paired with the tight spacing of the North Koreans created ideal conditions for the use of this type of ammunition here. In panic, they scattered across the area and tried to hide from the Ukrainian drones hovering above them. The ones who were lucky enough to avoid being hit by cluster munitions or FPV drones gathered nearby at the edge of a wooded area. However, it seems that most of the remaining North Koreans did not attempt to use the relative depth of the wooded area to gain at least some cover and concealment from the Ukrainian drones, choosing instead to remain at the edge of a tree line. There, they bunched up again, acting passively and unsure of how to handle the situation they had gotten themselves into. For the Ukrainians, this was yet another invitation to conduct a precision strike on the bunched up North Koreans. The few North Korean soldiers who had the idea to try hiding in the woods were targeted by drone drops and additional FPVs. Higher quality pictures of the hiding fighters clearly show that the soldiers are of Asian origin. While we should be careful not to label any slightly Asian-looking soldier in a Russian uniform as North Korean, there are several indicators suggesting that these could indeed have been North Korean soldiers.
Еще по Курской области корейцы. Все говорят о корейцах, корейцы, соответственно, в Курской области. Что сказать? Они там есть. Автор канала, то есть я видел их там своими глазами.
Their inexperienced behavior and their complete, and I mean complete, lack of awareness regarding the drone threat also support this conclusion. On this matter, a Ukrainian military official told the Washington Post the following: "The North Koreans are running across the fields, there are so many of them. They don't understand what is happening. Whether the Russian army is deliberately sending these soldiers into the line of fire is hard for him to assess. In any case, the number of these seemingly disoriented soldiers has increased in recent days. Drone operators have never had such an easy time targeting them as they do now." According to Ukrainian sources, the recent North Korean assaults were part of a newly launched massive Russian counteroffensive in the Kursk region, where the Ukrainian army has been holding out since an unexpected advance earlier in the summer. On Monday, December 16th, the Ukrainian Secret Service reported that over the weekend, at least 30 North Korean soldiers fighting alongside Russian forces in the Kursk region had been killed or wounded in combat. The first limited clashes between North Korean and Ukrainian troops in Kursk Oblast, however, were reported already in early November. Back then, without video footage, intelligence agencies in Ukraine, the United States and South Korea have all said Pyongyang has deployed around 10,000 troops to Russia to fight alongside its army. According to a senior US military official, North Korean forces fighting alongside Russian troops in the Kursk region have already suffered several hundred casualties. These casualties, the official explained, include everything from light wounds to being KIA, with soldiers of all ranks among those affected. These are not battle-hardened troops. They haven't experienced combat before, the official noted, suggesting that this lack of experience likely contributes to the heavy losses they have suffered at the hands of the Ukrainians. North Korea and Russia have deepened their military ties since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. North Koreans are reportedly in Ukraine because of the growing military alliance between Russia and North Korea. This cooperation is believed to have been facilitated by mutual needs. Russia, facing manpower shortages and international sanctions due to its war in Ukraine, is seeking external support, while North Korea, isolated and under heavy sanctions itself, sees an opportunity to strengthen its ties with Moscow in exchange for aid, technology, and other benefits. By aiding Russia, North Korea may gain diplomatic leverage and access to resources, technology, and potentially food or economic assistance. Deploying soldiers to Ukraine could give North Korean forces practical combat experience, which is valuable for their military development, even if this particular case shows that they still have a long way ahead of them. Even though this failed attack is painful to watch, there is a method and a certain logic behind it. Currently, Ukrainian units are severely understrengthed across all parts of the front due to a shortage of active combat troops. This leaves trenches and fighting positions relatively weakly manned. Through attacks like the one shown in this video, the Russians aim to wear down and soften these defensive positions in preparation for future offensives. The North Koreans, in this context, serve as the perfect tool for such operations. Lacking experience and likely seen as expendable by their Russian counterparts, they are deployed in frontal assaults to absorb Ukrainian firepower, deplete ammunition, and expose weak points in the lines. While the tactic results in heavy casualties for the North Koreans, it aligns with Russia's broader strategy of attrition, which seeks to grind down Ukrainian forces over time, regardless of the human cost to its own or allied troops.
Конечно, засади, бля. 저걸로. 늑대. 4. 들어.
4 drone.
땅땅땅땅땅땅 해. 땅땅땅땅 해가지고 3.
Good guy. Good guy.
Это good.
Despite all this, some analysts have warned against underestimating the North Koreans. According to a veteran of the South Korean army, some of the troops sent to assist Russia are highly trained and indoctrinated soldiers known as the Storm Corps. He described them as better trained, with better physiques and better motivated than your average North Korean soldier. South Korean lawmakers say Russia is teaching the soldiers about 100 basic military terms like fire and in position as reports of command and communication issues arise. In Russia, their training has included artillery, operating unmanned aerial vehicles and basic infantry operations including trench clearing, which are critical skills for frontline operations, according to the US State Department. Moscow's success in utilizing the troops will in large part be dictated by how well the Russians can integrate them into their military. So far, when it comes to combat, the North Koreans appear to have been used exclusively in infantry roles, and this without any mechanized or motorized support. This lack of support is particularly deadly given the terrain and the nature of modern warfare in Ukraine, where mobility, armored protection, and coordinated firepower are crucial for survival on the battlefield. Deployed as foot soldiers, these North Korean units face significant disadvantages against Ukraine's highly effective drone strikes, precision artillery, and well-coordinated infantry tactics. Without mechanized vehicles to provide mobility and protection, or motorized support to quickly redeploy under fire, these troops are left dangerously exposed, especially in open terrain or during frontal assaults. According to the New York Times, Vladimir Putin reportedly paid Kim Jong-un up to $6 billion in exchange for weapons and the deployment of North Korean soldiers to support Russia's war effort in Ukraine. This marks a significant development in the deepening military cooperation between the two heavily sanctioned nations, driven by mutual strategic needs. The Hancock Institute in Seoul estimates that Pyongyang's arms shipments to Russia are valued between $1.72 billion and $5.5 billion. These payments were reportedly made partially in cash and supplemented with oil, food, and other forms of aid, which are critical for North Korea's struggling economy. The arrangement not only provides financial lifelines to Kim Jong-un's regime but also strengthens its geopolitical alignment with Moscow. In addition to weapons sales, North Korea is believed to have deployed between 5,000 and 20,000 troops to Russia, earning an estimated $143 million to $572 million for their participation. According to President Zelensky, the North Koreans sent to Ukraine are likely being KIA in greater numbers than Russia admits. Preliminary data suggests that the Russians are trying to cover up the losses of the North Koreans, he said in an address. This includes measures such as setting the faces of fallen soldiers on fire to conceal their origin. However, this remains just a rumor for now and requires more evidence.
Ну.
Эту, маску, пусть отдельно, да и все.
Да?
Маску
И кто все равно то знает.